Okay, where did I leave off exactly? Star Wars Thoughts Part 3, I think I'm on. I think I left off talking about, the sequels, and specifically Episode 7, talking about why I was so disappointed in what they chose as a story, because it left out all of the history between Episode 6 and that time, 30 years later, and it was essentially a carbon copy of Episode 4, right? So, a couple of fun little parts, but overall, really disappointing entry when you only get 9 Skywalker Saga episodes, right? The numbered episodes. We've already got the poorly done prequels, especially Episode 1. So 1 is a straight up waste of an episode, and then 2 and 3 are poorly written. So that's 3 out of 9 right off the bat. And then finally, we get our new Star Wars, and Episode 7 is not a useful entry. It is treading the same ground we've already been on, and 7 felt like Star Wars, but they could have come up with something better. And, as Disney has admitted, they didn't really have a plan. So 7 happened, then 8 comes along with a new director, Rian Johnson, who is an awful human being, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I like some of his other movies, but he dove into Star Wars intending on, what did he call it? Subverting expectations? Is that what? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, yeah, he went in intending on mixing things up. Like, what we wanted was Star Wars. What we got was a jumbled mess of short stories that were all about failure. Like, the whole casino place side story was an exercise in futility. The training of Rey under Luke was just to say, hey, guess what? Luke's not the person you thought he was. He's a broken, horrible mess of an old man. How is that Star Wars? Luke was the most optimistic hero, to the point where his dad, who had murdered a lot of people, just like was responsible for a lot of suffering. And Luke was like, there's still good in him. We can bring him back. And then for some reason, Rian Johnson thinks that in Episode 8, a bad dream about his nephew, another family member that he's had a hand in raising, is gonna be bad. So, you know what? Maybe I should kill him in his sleep. What a stupid fucking idea. Sorry, I try to avoid the profanity. But Episode 8 was straight up awful. Just terrible. I hate it. Like, I hate Rian Johnson for making it. Hang on a second. I'm trying to get on the highway. There we go. Alright. So where was I? Episode 8 is god-awful. I'm gonna go back and say again, because I say it in most of the other videos I've made, the actors did fine work with what they were given. Some of the characters were interesting, but the structure that was written for what led up to this story, could have just stayed in your lane. Now I don't like you. People are slowing down too much. How about staying in your lane? Why do people have such a hard time with this exit? Anyway, back to Star Wars, and before I get to my destination, Episode 8 was awful, dumpster fire. It is by far the worst entry in Star Wars. Certainly in the numbered episodes, certainly in the movies, certainly in all the shows that I've seen. I have to compare it a little bit to my hatred of the Yuuzhan Vong from the extended universe, which was horrendously lazy writing. Let me back that up a step. The stories were pretty good, but the Yuuzhan Vong as the bad guy of this set of stories, horribly lazy, in that, hey, we have to make somebody that's a challenge for Jedi, so let's make somebody that's immune to the Force, and then now we need them to be able to be affected by the Force, so writer's fiat, and suddenly, hey, somebody figured out how to do it. And really, why would you have to go to a whole other galaxy? I don't think people are remembering how big 100,000 light years is. That's about the distance across our galaxy, and I think about the distance across the imagined galaxy of the story of Star Wars. And so really the idea that you'd have to leave your own galaxy to continue to spread your religious nutjobbery and conquer more people is bizarre. Like, why? There's so much space in a galaxy, so many planets. Whatever. It's so yeah, Yuuzhan Vong, bad. Episode 8, really, really bad, and I don't know which one I hate worse. Let's see, what's next? Episode 9. Episode 9 feels like they realized they had screwed up and were trying to give us something that felt like Star Wars again and had nods to earlier Star Wars, and I feel like it tried to be good to us, but just wasn't great. There was some nostalgia that I appreciate, but the gigantic scavenger hunt with segments that didn't make sense, like the dagger's edges lining up with the Death Star remains. Goonies did that bit way better, so much better. The unwillingness to translate the Sith language, forcing them to do weird, risky things with C-3PO, it was ridiculous. They fly now? Ugh, come on, you can do better than that. And then, like, the Exegol being a place you can't get to without this particular navigational information. But then at the end, an entire fleet of people arrive that weren't all on the same line, navigational line. They were all spread out. That was weak. It was just weak. The Emperor, like, electrocuting everything. The Emperor still being alive. What the hell is that? Why ruin the end of episode 6? Come up with a new threat that is the way that we hand off the reins from the heroes of the original trilogy to the new people. And yes, Rey should have been a Skywalker, should have been Luke's daughter, and Ben should still be Han and Leia's son, and they should have both been at the active Jedi Academy. Hey, guess who has the right of way? Yeah, anyway. I may talk about the sequels again a little bit more in part 4. For now, thanks for listening.